Wowee. It's that great holiday season again, in which your grandma gets you Mega Bloks when you specifically asked for Legos. And to be frank with you, I have no idea what to make a video about. What do you think, Jewish Isaac? Oh, I'm Jewish? Just because I'm wearing a yarmulke? Aren't you Jewish though? Yeah, it's true, but that's not the point. That's a lot of chutzpah coming from you right now. What? I mean, I don't want to be a kvetch or anything. I got it! I'm gonna do a review of Thor Ragnarok. Is Thor Ragnarok a good movie that you should watch? Well, if you're going into this film for Chris Hemsworth is definitely in this movie. So if you want some of that Hemsworth swole, you'll love this movie. But if you actually want a meaningful story, you'll be greatly disappointed.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Well, please. Let me explain. At least it's better than the abomination of Thor 2. And speaking of Thor 2, did you know that the original director Patty Jenkins fell through due to some creative differences with other writers and colleagues? But what does she know about making a superhero film? Instead of being on a darker, more realistic approach, Thor Ragnarok focuses on vibrant comedy and elaborate scenarios. It uses what I call the Guardians of the Galaxy formula. There's two things that are in this formula. You need the 70s and 80s vibes with a killer soundtrack. And then number two, you need to have comedy gold. But this formula feels out of place in a Thor movie. They really tried something different, which is okay. But if they do, they risk it either being really unique and amazing or just subpar. And I hate to say it, but I feel like this falls in the latter of those two. At least it wasn't as forced as one would think. I mean, the trailer certainly didn't help. Comedy in a superhero film is fine, when your characters are wisecracking and were originally written to be humorous. I would expect more of the humor in this film to be of an Iron Man or Guardians film. Like, where did this idea even come from?
Chris Hemsworth is a huge comedic talent.
Seriously, there's no way that you're this sweet, this funny, this fine. That's just not fair.
Oh. And let me just say, they really make it known that Chris Hemsworth is quite the comedian. In this opening scene, there's Thor tied up talking to Surtur, this demon who is supposed to be strong and menacing, and the movie turns all of it into a big laugh. Like I've been saying, comedy is fine, but when you have a plot being dark but your characters aren't serious at all, it just doesn't sit well. The antagonist, which is Thor's sister,
What a twist!
does a good job of being serious and sinister. But in one scene you have Cate Blanchett killing hundreds of Asgardians, and the next scene you have Jeff Goldblum being a David Bowie-esque playboy. The tones are polar opposites, and most of the time it even seems you're watching an entirely different movie. In Guardians, the writing is aware of the tones and sometimes even makes them light from a grim or dark situation. Thor doesn't fit the jokes in any efficient way either. It basically pauses the plot, tells the joke for the sake of having a joke, and then moves on to miss death, killing hundreds of people. That would be like me admiring how great looking the best NSYNC member is, and then doing something so disturbing I wouldn't even be able to post it on YouTube. I mean, doing something like that would just be so dark and twisted. Having this tone rollercoaster creates confusion to the audience about what the movie is actually about. They wanted this film to stand out as a comedy, and they fail. Not because of poor jokes, but because there's more serious things happening, and vice versa. You can't take anything seriously. Just like in Dark World when Thor lost his hand, you're like,
oh my goodness, he lost his hand. And then it's like, lol, psych. And you're like, why?
why though? It feels like there isn't a real genuine threat that you, as the audience, should be rooting against. The comedic writing makes it unimpressive, and the film makes great decisions like ninja, samurai, Asgardian zombies. Why?
I don't know.
Even though this movie has its flaws, maybe I should list some things that were actually pretty promising and enjoyable. Loki was great as always, even if he did remind me of Tommy Wiseau when he wore the black tuxedo. Mark Ruffalo in this movie? Oh my goodness, terrible in this movie. I don't know if it was just the improvisation or what, but 90% of his deliveries fell flat. especially in the scene where he realized that he's been the Hulk for 2 years straight. I must admit, the best part of his character was the Duran Duran Rio shirt. Get it? 'Cause wolves.